Hello, my good little subs, it's your Dom here, and welcome back to Plugs Club. Today we're going to be talking about The Place Beyond the Pines. Now, this movie is 11 years old, but I barely watched it for the first time today. Now, I have no idea why I never watched it. I bought the DVD when it came out, but I just never got around to it. I always told myself I was going to do it, but I just procrastinate on stuff. I don't know why, you know what I mean? There's so many movies I've wanted to watch, but I've just never gotten around to watching them. So, I finally decided to strap in and fucking watch it, and I enjoyed it. I'll tell you what, it's starring Bradley Cooper, Eva Mendes, Ray Liotta, and Ryan Gosling. And it's funny because on screen, Ryan Gosling and Eva Mendes have a romance which actually translated into real life. They're still married to this day. They fell in love while recording. But that being said, Ryan Gosling's character is Luke, a moto stunt driver who's in this traveling circus, so to say. And on one of his stops, he meets this girl named Romina. They have a fling, and she ends up giving birth to his child. She doesn't tell him because he ends up leaving, on tour. And a year later, he discovers that she actually had his kid because he goes to visit her when he returns to town. But she's already dating a man named Kofi, and she lives with him. So, that puts a whole, stagnant in his plans because he ends up quitting his job to try and, get back with her and take charge of the kid. But she's already with somebody else, so he can't offer her any stability since he lost his job. So one day he's just driving and he meets this guy named Robin in the woods. And this guy Robin, he offers him a job as a mechanic. He offers him a trailer. And he's making a humble living, but it's not enough to support Romina and the kid Jason. So Robin actually suggests to him that they rip off a couple banks, which they do. They pull off a couple bank robberies, and Luke, he ends up buying all these extravagant gifts for his son Jason, and he goes inside of Romina's and Kofi's house, and he starts setting it up. But this obviously upsets him because nobody actually invited him in the house. The mother of Romina was just there, and he just invited himself in while she was taking care of the baby. So this ends up fucking pissing off Kofi. Luke just fucking hits him with a wrench over the face, which ends up landing him in jail for assault. Robin, his partner in crime, thankfully bails him out, but Luke just goes off the rails. He goes off the deep end. He's like, oh man, you know what? Fuck it. We should hit 2 banks in one day. Just fucking get back at these pigs. So, Robin steps back and he's like, man, you know what? I'm out of the game. I don't want to rip off any banks anymore. I think you're going crazy. And, this pisses off Luke. So, he just ends up going solo dolo and robbing a bank on his own. But before he robs his bank, he takes some of the money he's already earned, $14,000 to be exact, and he gives it to Romina. She doesn't want anything to do with him, but he's like, here, take this, just give it to my son, and do me a favor and never tell him about me. So he ends up robbing a bank alone, but it goes south. So he ends up running into this apartment where this lady and her kid are, and Bradley Cooper ends up pursuing him. So at the worst time ever, Luke decides to fucking grow a conscience, and he lets the woman and the kid go. And he's like, his final wish is he calls up Romina, and this is when he tells her, oh, make sure you don't ever tell my kid about me. And while he's there on the fucking phone, Bradley Cooper, whose name is Avery, fucking breaks in and he fucking shoots him in the face. While Luke is holding a gun, his final fucking instinct while falling dead is shooting Avery, so he gets shot in the leg. So Avery ends up getting praised as this hero cop, but in reality he was just really reckless and trigger happy, and he ended up killing a man who wasn't really directly posing a threat to him. And this grows heavy on his conscience when he realizes that Luke had a newborn kid, just like Avery himself has a kid. So, he's questioned by the DA. He's like, oh man, he's asking him, did this guy try to shoot at you? Were you in immediate danger? What happened when you first entered the building? Did you make sure your presence was known? And he just lies through his teeth. He tells him, oh, I followed protocol, when in reality he didn't. He just fucking killed him dead. He executed the fuck out of Luke, but he lies to make himself look good. This ends up like going really fucking dark, because his friends later end up visiting him, and they take him to Romina's house. And in Romina's house, they search her house for evidence without a warrant, and they end up threatening her mother. They're like, oh, you better let us in, and you assume we have a warrant, and we'll assume that your mother is legal. So they search the house, and they end up finding the $14,000 that Luke had left behind for his son, and they take it. This is when Avery, for some reason, decides to grow a conscience, and he tries to return the money to her. She tells Avery that Avery fucking ruined her life when he killed Lucas, so she doesn't accept the money back. So Avery tries to go to the cops to return the money, and they're like, fuck you, man. Everyone turns on him. They're like, you're a rat snitch. So the snitch ends up going to the DA, you know what I mean? And the way he does it is he records one of his buddies trying to get coke for some prostitute, and he gets it on fucking tape. So he snitches on the entire police department, and this gets him a comfortable spot as the assistant DA, just being a rat snitch 6'9". So 15 years later, we end up seeing that Avery is now the DA, and his son AJ is all grown up. His son goes to school, and he ends up meeting with this one kid named Jason, which is Luke's son. And it's funny because as soon as they meet, they just end up smoking pot and getting fucking arrested for trying to buy ecstasy by cops. And since Avery is a fucking DA, they end up only getting a slap on the wrist. But after serving time in jail, this is when Jason starts to get curious about his father, and he keeps persisting and asking his mom about his father. So stepdad Kofi ends up telling him the name of his father, Luke. So Jason, he researches him. He goes to visit Robin, and Robin tells him about his dad, about how he was a motorcycle driver. And this sparks a curiosity in Jason, and he ends up finding out that his father was killed by AJ's dad, Avery. And it's really sad, pathetic, and hilarious, because Jason tries to fight AJ and confront him about his dad, killing Luke. But when he tries to fight him, he gets his ass fucking kicked. So in retaliation, he decides to buy a gun from one of his homies. He goes to AJ's house and tells him to get on the ground, but Avery ends up popping up. So fucking Jason takes him to the woods and he mugs him. And in his wallet, he finds this photo that Luke took right after Jason was born, of him, his mom, and Luke. So it's a family photo, and after all that time, Avery had kept the photo, and it was just weighing heavy on his conscience. So Jason runs away, and he ends up sending the photo of the family to his mother, Romina, and he uses the money that he stole from Avery to buy a motorcycle, ending the movie full circle. And I think this movie really has that ambition. I wouldn't really say it hits the nail on the head. I see what it was trying to go for, but I found myself kind of questioning it a little bit. I was like, what really was the purpose of this movie? But personally, the way I interpreted it is, this is talking about transgenerational trauma, and the cycles that we end up repeating, the cycles of trauma that our parents may unconsciously or consciously pass down to us, and how we're either doomed to repeat those cycles or we can break them depending on our own actions. You know what I mean? In this movie, Dane DeHaan, who's known for his role in Chronicle or as a Green Goblin, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, he plays Jason, who is Luke's son. And as you see, his life just comes full circle. He ends up doing the same shit that his dad did, ripping people off and using his motorcycle to fucking run away from the consequences, because that's what his father would do. He would just run away from the consequences and not face them. When the one time he did face those consequences, it cost him his life. You could say it's karma, or it's whatever you choose it to be. I believe in karma, not exactly the way Buddhists do, but I believe everything comes back to you. And especially as the message of the movie portrays, sometimes it's transgenerational. Sometimes what you do, your kids end up paying for it. It's kind of hard to fucking interpret, because it does get a little confusing there at the end. It feels a little rushed at the end. You know what I mean? Maybe if the movie was longer, they could have set it up more. But I understand where they were trying to go with it, and I respect it. I respect its ambition. I wouldn't say it exactly hit the nail on the head. I wouldn't blame you if you come out of this movie with a lot of fucking questions. I came out of the movie with a lot of questions, but ultimately it just ends up showing that, whatever you do can bleed down to your kids. So you gotta really make sure you break the cycles of trauma. And I love that message. That's something I really am heavily focused on. That's like something I respect. That's a message I've been trying to push along myself as a creator and an artist. So I'll give this movie a solid 6 out of 10. Honestly, it could have been done better. I'll say that much. At the end of the day, I just feel like that final act was really rushed. It went from 0 to 100 really quickly. Like, the kids meet and then all of a sudden they're wrapped in this giant ordeal when one of them is trying to kill the other. Like, I get why, but it doesn't really give you any breathing room. There's really no build up. It just goes, oh, they meet each other, then they get arrested, and then all of a sudden fucking Jason's trying to kill Avery. It just goes by too quickly. It doesn't give you that time to build up or feel that really impact. You don't feel the festering. It doesn't feel transgenerational. One scene, Luke is getting captured, in the next scene, fucking Jason's all growing up trying to cap Avery. It goes by too quickly. So I respect the movie, I respect the ambition, but it's just not exactly where it needs to be or where it wants to be. It's a great movie, and I definitely recommend you watch it, especially if you're interested in dramatic films. It does have a lot of drama and an impactful message that's hidden deep. Once you start asking the right questions, then you can find the message there. It's a diamond in the rough, this movie. But personally, I'm glad I finally decided to watch it, even though it's been so fucking long. I'm glad to watch it because I like Dane DeHaan. I fucking love them as a Green Goblin. I love Ryan Gosling. I love them in Drive. Eva Mendes is great. The whole cast is great. The music in this movie, it's really nice. I feel like it really sets the tone. But like I said, I think really the tone and the character build up, I get what they're trying to do, but it feels too rushed. You know what I mean? Especially with Jason, I feel like there's just the character progression makes no fucking sense, because it's just a downward slope. Like, you meet the kid, and all of a sudden he's a criminal. Like, it doesn't really give you that nice build up. It doesn't really build up tension. It doesn't really give you a reason to care, to be honest with you. So it's really lacking in those two departments, the tone and the character building. I get the world building and where they're trying to go. That's nice. I respect the ambition, as I said, but it's just not there yet. It's definitely a movie that could have used a lot of improvement, a lot more time, but it's a good watch, and I definitely recommend you check it out. If you like Ryan Gosling, if you like Bradley Cooper, if you like any of those actors, if you like Ray Liotta, if you like crime dramas, this movie's worth checking out. I've been your host, Dom, and this has been Plugs Club. Thank you for watching. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my new podcast on my YouTube channel, The Lemonade Standard, and on Spotify. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day. Peace.